Welcome back to another episode of the Across the Sky podcast, our Lee Enterprise National Weather Podcast. We are joined with you from our meteorologists across the country. With us today, Matt Holliner in Chicagoland, Sean Sublett over in Richmond, Virginia. Kirsten could not be with us today, but he will be back soon enough, of course, as we go through the months and the years ahead. Guys, so, we've done sports and weather before, but we've never actually interviewed somebody who does sports and is a meteorologist, and we're going to have that for the first time today as we welcome on Joe Moravsky from American Ninja Warrior. They call him the Weatherman, not just because that's what they just decided to call him, but he is a meteorologist. He got a meteorology degree, and we're very happy to have him.
Yeah, there are not many meteorologists who are also athletes. We're kind of a nerdy bunch, and so athletics is, for most of us, not... Most of us, it's not our forte. We're more into the books a little bit, the sciencey nerds. Although I'd like to think we're the cool science nerds. We do focus on the cool part of science. Meteorology, I think, is the one that more people are like, oh, I like that kind of science. Maybe not so much the physics and chemistry. So I would say we were a cooler science, but not too many of us athletic inclined. I'm certainly one. So it was really cool to chat with him about how he mixed these two worlds, how he kind of broke the mold of a meteorologist and really got into the athletic side, and how he got involved with American Ninja Warrior, because that is very much a niche. What you're talking about in the sports world, that is a very big niche. So chatting with him about his interest in weather and also how he also has gone on this athletic path was really cool.
Yeah, it's nice to see that, because so many times, as you mentioned, Matt, we kind of get pigeonholed, if you will, into this is what a meteorologist or weatherman or, whoever is like. This is what they're like. For me, a little bit older, it was really kind of cool to see Cantori, the Weather Channel, rise into popularity. He kind of gave our geekdom a little more street cred, if you will. So that's nice to see. And of course, look, Jim is buff. I mean, dude is. That's just the way of the world.
Yes.
So, but it's good to show that this community of people who geek out about weather do have a broader focus, to have other interests. And I think that's very important in this day of age. And certainly the stuff Joe is doing and how long he's been doing it honestly surprised me. So really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, well, let's dive into it here. Get you into the episode with Joe Moravsky from American Ninja Warrior on the Across the Sky podcast.
Taking charge of your future starts with taking the first steps. And saving up to $30 a month on Cox Internet with the Affordable Connectivity Program makes those steps easy to take. Whether they bring you to click upload on your first short film or join now for an online book club. Applying is easy. See if you qualify at cox.com/ACP. Non-transferable, one per household. Application and eligibility decisions are made by the FCC.
All right, and it is time for our interview here with a very special guest. Don't know if we've ever had this segment of meteorology before. How about American Ninja Warrior in weather? I don't know if we've had that combination on our podcast before. It might be a first, but we are very pleased to welcome on Joe Moravsky to the podcast. He is an American Ninja Warrior athlete known as the Weatherman. He has competed since season 5 of American Ninja Warrior and has twice been the last ninja standing, beating everybody in the country. He is also a husband and father of 3 and currently manager of Stamford Ninja Academy in Stamford, Connecticut. He also got his meteorology degree from Western Connecticut State University. Joe, I think I'm saying that right.
Right.
But, welcome to the pod. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. It's funny, kind of breaking barriers, right? We got the sports world and the weather world, and we put them together with American Ninja Warrior, the Weatherman here. So they're very unique conversations I end up having, because people are like, what is the Weatherman? How does that have to do with ninja? So I'm sure we're going to get into that today.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'll tell you what, Joe. So when I do talks at schools and it's about, different careers in weather or just kind of talking about what I do as a meteorologist, one of the slides I have is different segments of meteorology. So I talk about, working in the National Weather Service, working in media. And then I say sometimes you get to become an American Ninja Warrior, and I use a photo of you in my PowerPoint presentation. So thank you for helping me talk to kids all across New Jersey here.
No problem. We're on the same team, man. We're on the same team.
Absolutely. You know, weather's a small field. So let me ask you about the weather part first. How did you get interested in weather? Was there something that just bit you? You know, like a lot of people, did you fall into it? How did it work out?
I mean, there are I'm sure just like all of you here would agree, there are so many stories, right? So many stories that got us into weather. I would say the first memory I have of just recognizing the wow factor of weather was when I was a kid. My mom was telling me, I remember driving. I remember this day so perfectly, or this moment so perfectly. It's such a simple moment, but it was so powerful to me. We're sitting in the car. I must have been, you know, maybe, I don't even know, 8 years old, 9 years old. And I remember her driving saying, Joe, look at those clouds. And they were cumulus clouds. I didn't know that at the time, but nice big old cumulus clouds. And she was like, you see how that one looks like a shape that looks like this or whatever that was? And I was like, oh yeah, that's really cool. She's like, yeah, those are my favorite. They're so cool. They look so big and powerful, and they take all these different types of shapes. And I don't know. I was so young and so out of touch because of that, you know, that I didn't ever think of that. You know, I never really looked up at the sky and said, wow, look at that, you know? And that was the first moment that kind of got me interested. And I remember in 5th grade, I'll never forget this. We went through, you know, what do you want to be when you get older, to all my 5th grade teachers, students. And I told her I wanted to be a meteorologist. And I said, one day I'm going to say, hey, Mrs. Lacey, I'm going to tell you the weather when you wake up in the morning before school. I'll make sure to shout you out. And she was like, I hope so, Joe. And I was like, but wait, that's not all I want to do. She was like, oh, well, what else do you want to do? And I said, I want to be a professional athlete. She was like, okay. And, you know, who doesn't have dreams and aspirations of being a professional athlete, right? Especially somebody like me, I guess. But, you know, I've always wanted to do it. And I never thought doing both would be possible. But I guess I kind of have, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I can think of a couple of athletes and meteorologists. Owen Daniels, who was a tight end for, I think Minnesota Vikings, maybe, you know, Houston Texans. That's the only one I can think of. I'm probably missing somebody. You might know, Joe. Who
so there's one person in particular that, from what I understand, never became a meteorologist, but was always fascinated with the weather. I remember I heard this on some interview somewhere once. And I was like, wow, I like this guy even more. You probably won't even believe it. Michael Jordan.
Really? Michael
Jordan. Now, we're going to need some fact checkers on that, but I'm almost positive that that's what I heard him say from his mouth, that he loved the weather and he always wanted to be a meteorologist. And I was like, whoa, that's so cool.
Hey,
Michael Jordan himself.
Yeah, I know Mike Trout is a big weather guy too.
I didn't know this. This is good.
He's been on the Weather Channel a couple of times with Jim Cantori talking during snowstorms and stuff.
Of course.
So, okay, so you got a nice little fraternity there. You and Michael Jordan, you know, right there.
Yeah, right. Jim Cantori is the one guy. I met Reed Timmer a couple, many years ago now. At this point, he was a big idol of mine. But Jim Cantori, I mean, come on, who doesn't want to meet that guy? You know, out in the snow, waiting for the thunder. Just waiting for the thunder,
or even some thunder snow. And that leads me into my next question here. Growing up in Connecticut, it's all about the nor'easters and the snowstorms, baby. So are you a big snow guy, and do you have any memories growing up of some big snow events?
Absolutely. I didn't even know about thunder snow until, older, my older years. I don't know exactly when, but I remember being outside during a big storm and a big snowstorm. And I remember exactly where I was. It's just one of those moments. I remember the snow coming down so hard. The sky had this almost like a pinkish hue to it, which was interesting. And all of a sudden I heard a rumble of thunder, and I was like, what is that, thunder? Like, I didn't know that was a thing at the time. I must have been, middle school at that point. And sure enough, I come to find out, I think I saw Brad Field on NBC Connecticut, one of my big role models of the NBC Connecticut world. And sure enough, I think he spoke on NBC that evening. He was like, we had some reports of thunder snow. And I was like, thunder snow? My world has been changed. I didn't know that was a thing. And so that, those, of course, are such incredible moments to hear thunder within a snowstorm. It's really cool and pretty unique. I'm sure you guys have heard it, although maybe not, because some of you are not from the Northeast. But either way, it's pretty cool.
I've heard it, and it is very cool.
On Halloween Day, I was in Chicago, and I experienced thunder grapple for the first time. It was not snow, almost snow, but it was actually grapple, and that was a unique experience. I feel like I'm one of the few that have had that experience.
That's cool. I actually had somebody at my job yesterday. He was like, it was hailing this morning. I was like, it wasn't hail. I hate to break it to you. He was like, what do you mean?
There is a difference.
And it's our job. We got to explain it. But yeah, it was not hail.
Common, but yeah, grapple is a thing. You can Google it and learn all about it. But Joe, what I want to walk through is let's go after you've got your meteorology degree, how things played out. So what did you do right after college? Like what was your meteorology experience? And then how did you get involved in American Ninja Warrior?
Yeah, it's very interesting. So the condensed version of the story is when I graduated college, I had this opportunity. I had watched American Ninja Warrior on TV, and it just so happened that somebody that I knew a guy that was on the show. And this was before it was really big. It was really before it grew into the NBC giant that it is today, or at least it used to be. It's, the ratings on TV are going down across the board. But, back 5 years ago, 6 years ago, was really, millions and millions of people were watching. But before it got to that point, there was somebody on the show that I ended up meeting with. And I asked them all about it. I was like, how can I get on the show? Like, this is something I'd love to do. When do they film? And I asked him everything. And he said, we usually film in the spring. And I was like, okay, well, I'm graduating a semester next, only because, or a semester late, because I ended up switching majors. Not a lot of people know this. I switched from meteorology to secondary education. I really wanted to be a coach. I wanted to stay in that sport world, even though I was sacrificing it to be a meteorologist. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to transition. I'm going to stick to science and math. I'm going to teach that in high school, and I'll be a coach. It'll be awesome. I'll be able to stay in the athletic world for the rest of my life if I want to. And it was something that really got me excited. And then I just had a moment where I was like, you know what? Something's not right. And I switched back. A semester later, and I ended up graduating a semester late. And because of that, graduated in December. The filming of the show was in March. And I was lucky enough to know about it and start training for it in the summer before, just in case. And here I am today. They loved the idea of a weatherman coming in, and they wanted to tease me. I know they did. Everyone had like a shtick back then, and it was like, the Frogman is coming out, and look, he's got a silly costume. And then the Captain NBC was dressed up as, at the time, Captain G4, I think it was on G4 network. And, he had a thing, and other people had a thing, and the fireman and the police officer and the teacher. So they wanted a weatherman. They thought that'd be great. They thought it was going to be a novelty act. They thought they were going to just tease me, and so be it. But they found out that I was a real athlete, and it kind of took off from there. So that was the condensed version, that surprisingly. But that's how it all started.
Yeah. So when did you actually begin to train for that, and how long did you train in anticipation? I mean, did you still have to try out and then qualify? I mean, how many hoops did you have to ultimately jump through to compete on the program?
I started training the summer before. It was probably August of 2012. I got on the show in the spring of 2013. And honestly, it wasn't a ton of training to get where I got to, because I was already a serious athlete. I had played baseball and basketball. I tried out for the baseball team in college, and it was on the bubble to make the team. And then I realized, you know what? I have a job. I have this career that I'm really aiming for, and I'm paying my way through college. So how am I going to do this? And so unfortunately, I gave in to the walking away from sports. But I was always an athlete, always growing up. I played varsity sports in high school, and like I said, college baseball for a short time, and then rec sports in college. So it was really just fine tuning my athleticism to be a ninja. So I did a lot more upper body work. Like I was doing pull-ups every other day in the gym. I was rock climbing a little bit. I was just trying to fine tune myself to be ready, and I did a pretty good job. It worked out. So that's kind of how it all started there.
Let's talk about a little bit about how the sausage is being made during these episodes. I have watched American Ninja Warrior before, but I will say I know a lot of kids are interested in American Ninja Warrior, at least with the kids that I've spoken to. So, when you're there, what's it like? Like, how long are you actually there competing? Because, I know it looks like a lot of different cuts on television. So what is a day of competition like?
Oh, it's rough. I'll tell you that. It's rough. It's something that really takes getting used to, and it's definitely a younger person's sport. I'll tell you that, because the older you get, like me, you get married, you have kids. It's a lot harder to change your sleep schedule, because we film this overnight. We usually get there depending on where the location is. Let's take the Vegas finals, for example. Vegas finals, they want us there early to make sure there's no hiccups. We go over rules of the course at 7 p.m., right around 7 p.m. local time in Vegas. And we end up getting there about 5:30 in the evening. So it's 5:30 until 7. We're sitting around in a tent doing nothing. From 7 to 8, it's rules. And about 8:30 to 9 o'clock, the competition starts. At about that time, we run through the night and we don't finish filming until about 5 a.m. So it's a very long 12 hours of just sitting around trying to deal with the anxiety and the stress of having to give it your all in that one shot that you have. And it's hard also because sometimes there are hiccups along the way where the course will malfunction and then there's even more of a delay. And this has happened 2 years in a row for me where I'm supposed to run one night. There's a course malfunction. I have to run now the next night. And the next night is reserved for stage 2 of the Vegas finals. And the next night after that is sometimes stage 3 and 4, which is the final stage. So it really depends on the year. But if I get bumped from one night to the next, sometimes it's a relief. And sometimes I'm like, I'm ready. I want to go now, so it's frustrating. And you kind of have to be okay with, changing things on the fly. And as a meteorologist, this is what I love so much because people don't understand that you'll have your producer in your ear saying, hey, Joe, we need 30 more seconds. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm on the 7th day already. What am I going to do? So you just slow it down and you start to talk a little bit like this. And maybe there's a chance for some rain overnight, but we're going to have to keep an eye on the computer models, of course, because I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just filling time. And so you have to be able to adapt to anything that comes your way. And so, that parallel between meteorology and sports, it's actually pretty amazing. And not to mention all the physics that I've taken and the understanding of how obstacles should work and how my body should move through the air to be able to beat these obstacles. I mean, it's all a huge advantage. And people wouldn't normally think that.
And Joe, how many cities have you traveled to do the show? And I'm also curious, along the way in all these travels and all these competitions, has weather ever been an issue? Has there been weather that has occurred during the course of the event that maybe had a little bit of an impact?
Absolutely. There's a few really cool moments. We in the St. Louis, it was in Colorado. I wasn't there for that one, but we actually had some snow on that course. And so they built a snowman at the top of the warp wall. That one was cool. In St. Louis for 1 year, we had severe thunderstorms to where we canceled the entire night. Another year in St. Louis, we got snow, but it was like the back end of the front. So the rain had gone through and then there was some flakes behind it and it got bitterly cold and windy. It was terrible. But I think the most memorable was in the Vegas finals. A couple years ago, we got rain right before we started running. And it was, summertime in Vegas. Like, you're not really getting rain. So that was kind of cool and unique. But aside from that, there was one time the Minneapolis city qualifiers and finals. I just landed at the airport. Right when I landed, I got alerts on my phone for a severe thunderstorm warning. I was like, everywhere I go. And people are, they look at me because I got some ninjas coming off the plane with me and they're like, Joe, you're supposed to be in control of this. Come on. I'm like, yeah. So it is funny. Yeah, there's definitely been quite a few moments where weather has impacted the competition. Absolutely.
And do they ask you? Has anyone ask you what the weather is going to be? Like, who's actually making that decision to
tell me about it? You would think, right?
Yeah.
But they have their own in-house meteorologist apparently, and I've offered my advice. I've been like, hey, we got about 30 minutes, producers. Let's go. I'm up in 3 runners. Let's go. And sure enough, that year in Philadelphia, I got rained out. I was the next to run, and there was 11 of us left, and in Philadelphia, and we got rained out for the rest of the night. It was going to be 3 days of rain. So they canceled the shoot. The next 11 runners, the final 11 runners, got sent to Minneapolis, which is where that severe thunderstorm warning hit me right when I got off the plane. So that was a year.
Interesting. All right. Well, we're going to take a break. We'll have more with Joe Moravsky on the other side of the Across the Sky podcast.
The United States Border Patrol has exciting and rewarding career opportunities with the nation's largest law enforcement organization. Border Patrol agents enjoy great pay, outstanding federal benefits, and up to $20,000 in recruitment incentives for newly appointed agents. If you are looking for a way to serve something greater than yourself, consider the United States Border Patrol. Learn more online at cbp.gov/careers/USBP. That's cbp.gov/careers/USBP.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Across the Sky podcast. Hey, new episodes come out every Monday wherever you get your podcasts and on your favorite local news website. We are back with Joe Moravsky, famously known as the Weatherman on American Ninja Warrior. We are talking all about weather, American Ninja Warrior athletes, and beyond. Joe, let me ask you this. What is your involvement with meteorology nowadays?
It's really kind of sad. We just had our first snow here in Connecticut. Was it yesterday? I think
it was.
It was yesterday. Yeah. See, you know better than I do. And I was here.
No, I'm just...
But that's the point. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very much still in love with it. But, the conclusion I've come to is I'm 34 years old. I can be in my 50s or 60s or even 70s if I want to be a meteorologist. I can't be in my 50s, 60s, 70s competing at this level on Ninja Warrior, and so I have put everything on halt. I'm focusing on my career with Ninja, managing the gym and hopefully franchises soon. So there's a lot that I'm working on, but yeah, meteorology is not one of them. So it is always nice and refreshing to do this, you know what I mean? To kind of get the weather weenies together.
Yeah.
Yep. I know the general public's like, what is that? But that's what we call ourselves.
No, we understand. So you're still getting excited when the snow's coming in.
Oh, absolutely. You should have seen me. I was like a kid on Christmas yesterday. I was like, it's snowing out. I made sure everyone knew. I was texting everybody. The best part, though, and this is always fun, me and a small group of my friends, every so often I'll say, snow's coming on Wednesday, for example. I said this last week. I was like, snow's coming on Wednesday. You heard it here first. And I sent it to them. And sure enough, Wednesday morning, I got a text from them. They're like, you son of a... You were right. I was like, you better believe it. So not always right, as we know, but I nailed that one. And I think it was a week out. So I was happy about that.
Nice. Well,
I have nobody checking up on me. So it's not a big deal. I can make big claims.
Well, Joe, back to your role right now. What is your relationship with American Ninja Warrior? I mean, are you still doing competitions? Are you kind of advising? What is your role and influence with them right now?
So we just filmed season 15. I had a really good season. Didn't hit a lot of buzzers, but felt really good. Made it to the Vegas finals. Got to our head-to-head showdown, which is on stage 2 in Vegas. It's a brand new format where we actually race somebody, and the winner goes to stage 3. And in the history of American Ninja Warrior, I'm still the only person with the most amount of stage 3 visits. So I've been there the most out of everyone in history, which is really cool. And it helps with the confidence trying to get back there. I'm like, all right, come on, Joe, you've been there before. Let's do it again. And it does help. But I ended up losing my race. I ended up misplacing a bar. The bar had to go into like these bear traps that were inverted, and you had to push the bar through the bear trap and it locked in place on its way out. And I only got one side in because I'm mid race. I'm trying to like really focus at a high speed, and I just missed. I'm talking by an inch. And so my season was over. But the good news is they brought me back for season 16. We filmed back-to-back seasons. We think it had to do with the writer's strike, so they were getting ahead of it. So from what I'm hearing, the rumor is, and this is just a rumor, it's not confirmed, that early 2024, January, February, season 16 will air, which is something we've already filmed. I can't tell you how it did, but let's just say Ninja Warrior should want to keep having me back for years to come. Let's hope. So, it's always good though when I step out on the course. So in all seriousness, they've always loved taking the Weatherman back on the show. It's just for whatever reason, maybe it's the fact that I grew up on TV, right? I started as a 23-year-old just with a girlfriend and no kids. And 10 years later, I have a new house, 3 kids, a wife, a new job, and I've grown up on TV. And it's really relatable to a lot of people watching, especially the people that started watching it when I did. They get to see the guy from Connecticut that turned into a ninja superstar. So it's really cool.
And going off of that, how much longer do you think you're going to keep competing and keep at it before you make that career transition back to meteorology? Maybe how much longer do you think you're going to stay with Ninja Warrior?
That's the question, man. If you asked me that 2 years ago, I'd say this is it, because the COVID season was really hard on me. I got disqualified because my wife caught COVID while we were at the Vegas finals. Oof. Like I can relive that, man. I can't tell you how awful that felt. Like I was ready to run. I was 19 people away from stepping on the stage one course in Vegas, which by the way is outdoors, and we're vaccinated and blah, 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 blah. I can go on and on. And we got tested and I was negative that night for COVID, but because my wife was a close contact, I got disqualified from the competition. And I did mentally retire that year. I retired that night. I made the decision. I was like, this is how it's going to end. This is how it was meant to end. And the more I sat on that thought, the more okay I became with never winning, because I hadn't ever won at this point and still, haven't. Maybe season 16, but we don't know yet. And so, I had let it go. I let the dream go. I was like, it's okay. It's okay to not achieve your dreams. Like you did so much and it's okay. But just something came across me in that time of reflection, the months later. And I just realized, you know what? I can't. Like, how often do people walk away at their peak? I can't. I still have more to give. And there's so many people that rely on seeing me out there, rely on me for motivation, inspiration, never giving up. Right. And I've touched too many people's lives and I've heard too many people's stories about how I have to walk away. And I've learned that it's not just about me at this point anymore. I do it for people that look up to me and want to see me back for whatever their reason is. And so that's powerful enough to keep me going among all the other things. So I'll be back and I continue to take it 1 year at a time. But I don't see myself walking away in the next 2 or 3 years. Like I got time left and I'm ready to commit to it.
Joe, kind of following up on that, do you hear from aspiring meteorologists, throughout your years on American Ninja Warrior? Do you do school visits? What's your relationship like with younger people who are interested in weather as a career but are still in school?
Yeah, so I definitely had a lot of people reach out to me, Twitter, Instagram. Twitter is a really great place where people have reached out, especially meteorologists. I don't know what it is about us meteorologists and Twitter, but yeah, a lot of people have reached out there. I think on that last podcast that I was on, I think they found me through Twitter as well. But yeah, I've done school visits and weather, slideshows at my wife's school, at other schools, and I've even had the really cool opportunity to meet Al Roker a few times on the Today Show and be on his morning show there. So that was fun. That was a lot of fun. It's been a few years since that, but I told Al, I was like, hey, we got to get you on the course. He was like, okay, no way. But yeah, that's, it's it comes with a job, like I'm always going to have people reaching out, whether they're meteorology wannabes or actual meteorologists or just kids interested in the weather. I've had them all reach out. It's really cool. It's really cool to be able to reach so many people.
I did a little Facebook sleuthing on your public page here.
Yep.
I saw you went to Long Beach Island over the summer.
Yes.
What'd you think?
Loved it. It just so happened Taylor Swift was there at the same time.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I
remember
guess
that.
Guess who got to meet her? Not me.
Oh.
Not me.
I was going to say she got to meet you, right? It'd be the other way.
Please. I wish, man.
Yep.
What? It's her and Kelsey?
Yes, Travis Kelce.
Yeah, Travis Kelce. They're together now. The whole world knows that. But yeah, Taylor Swift was down there. But aside from that, Long Beach Island is beautiful. I mean, it's close enough to Connecticut where it's not like driving we went to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina a couple years ago. That was a drive. Let me tell you that. But it was beautiful. But yeah, Long Beach Island, we loved it. And we'll probably go back. I know my dad is already interested, so maybe we'll see you out there.
Let me know. We can do we'll get you in the studio. We can do a green
live
weather video for you. Yeah, we can go live, do whatever you want. Joe, anything else you want to end with here before we wrap it up? This has been a great half hour with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so thankful, for these opportunities and to keep my foot in the meteorology door. It's always been a passion of mine to, just be in the weather community and to be involved in weather in some way. And whether I'm doing it, all the time or not, doesn't mean I don't love it. So this means a lot to me. It's fun to meet other fellow meteorologists. And I'll see you on the next podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'd love to have you back maybe after season 16 airs.
Let's hope. Let's hope. Let's hope it's a good one.
Well, we're rooting for you, Joe. We really appreciate you taking your time to chat with us, and we'd love to have you again soon. But thanks again for the time.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks for repping so well, man.
Appreciate it.
And we are back here. So, guys, as I'm listening to this, I hear him talking about snowstorms in Connecticut, and talking about fronts. He's just like one of us. It's just, you see him on NBC, a couple times a year competing on American Ninja Warrior. It's just really cool to have him on.
Well, it is really cool. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I also like how he can't escape the weather. He had the rain delay in Philadelphia. Then he said, so then they decided to move it to Minneapolis, and it got the severe thunderstorm warning there. So it's hard for him to escape the weather in these events because they do occur outside. So there is an element. The weather does impact him in his game, even when he's not actively working as a meteorologist. The weather is having an impact, and people are teasing about it and asking him questions about it. So the weather continues to follow him. It knows he's a meteorologist.
Yeah, and to that end, almost all of their competitions are recorded at night, which I think is also important. If you're training, you're going to be training a different way if you have to perform outside in the daylight, especially in spring, summer, fall. The sun is up, and it's different than if you're out there at nighttime. And to say nothing of, they record well into the night, not like, we're done at 9:30 or 10. They go well past midnight recording some of this stuff. So that's an additional stress on the body, just being up when it is not accustomed to being up. And the fact that he is still doing this, very impressive.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either, that it was, I figured, you do see that it's filmed at night, but I kind of said, just during the evening hours. And I wasn't even thinking in my mind that, for some of those people, some of them, they start in the evening, but they're going all night. So some of them are, doing this 3 a.m, 4 a.m, which just makes it even harder, again, especially if you're trying to live a normal life most of the time. But when you do the competition, to be up at those hours, it just makes it more difficult. So it makes it more impressive that he's done as well as he has.
And I like what you said earlier, Matt, about breaking the mold, right? Not too many, athletes that are meteorologists. I was going to ask you guys, did you guys do sports in high school or college?
Oh, definitely not college.
Oh no, everybody's playing.
No,
I did middle school golf team. And then I trained, but then again, my talent level wasn't good enough for the high school golf team, so I switched over to band. Another nerdy thing.
just a bunch of pickup soccer and intramural softball. That's about as exciting as it got for me. Yeah,
but I think, aren't you a disc golf guy, Sean?
I do. My son is really the big disc golf guy, and he's gotten me into doing it, and he's had to show me how to hold the discs the right way to kind of move your body so you have control of the discs. But that's fun, but I wouldn't call that high stress exercise.
Right. It's a lot of walking.
That is a lot of walking.
You gotta walk around a lot. That ain't nothing. All right. So we have plenty of more episodes coming up, of course. Coming up next week, we're going to do Bob Dylan in the weather. Now, Bob Dylan was not a meteorologist, but he did write a lot of songs about the weather. And we actually have Dr. Alan Robach, who was one of my professors at Rutgers, come on the podcast because, guys, he actually did his thesis about Bob Dylan in the weather, which when we were in school, we used to just kind of be like, that's pretty incredible, maybe a little different. But it's going to come to be a real surprise when he talks about this, because he has a lot to say about this. He might be Bob Dylan's biggest fan.
Well, I think wasn't Bob Dylan the guy who wrote "You Don't Need a Weatherman to Know Which Way the Wind is Blowing"? Wasn't that Dylan?
I'm not sure, Sean.
I think it was Dylan. I'd have to go Google it. But I mean, Dylan has written a lot of stuff with these weather undertones. So I'm not surprised, but I'm looking forward to hearing what Alan has to say.
And a quick shout out, the reason we actually came up with this idea, gosh, I think it's now coming up on almost a year when we did our top 10 weather songs.
Has it been a year now?
I think it's almost been. You're going to have to go back in our podcast history, scroll back, but we did an episode, the top 10 weather songs, and we talked about Bob Dylan on there. And then Joe said, my professor did his whole thesis on Bob Dylan and the weather. And it's like, you know what? he might be a good one to bring on. And so we're finally getting around to it.
That was our November 28th, 2022 episode.
Wow.
Yeah.
I scroll
I
all
thought
the
it
way
was
down.
almost a year.
Yeah, top 10 weather or top 10 weather songs we did. And that was with Terry Lipschitz, who's our producer here, our podcast producer for not just us, but all of our Lee Enterprises weather podcasts that we do. We're also going to do 10 things to know about weather. That's coming up the 18th of December. And then at the end, we will do our year in review. So we do have, of course, more things coming up. And we'll make it even better as we go into the new year, which is rapidly approaching. Believe it or not. I can't believe it.
And I did just Google it. Yes, you don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. That's Dylan.
That is true. But if you need to forecast which way the wind blows,
well, I mean,
we're here
all you need is
for
a compass to know which way the wind blows. That's all you need. You don't need me. You just need a compass.
Well, I'm trying to give us some cred here. I'm trying to give us some credit. I'm saying if you need a wind forecast, that's where you come with us. We got it there. If you have a question, you can leave one for us at 609-272-7099, 609-272-7099. You can also email podcast@lee.net. So for Matt Hollander in Chicagoland, Sean Sublett in Richmond, and Kirsten, who couldn't be with us, but she is saying hello from Tulsa, Oklahoma, I'm meteorologist Joe Moravsky, and we'll see you next Monday on the Across the Sky podcast.